I think we can all agree that Season 2 of Zenless has been contentious to say the least. I've certainly made my dissatisfaction known in the last couple of months, but believe it or not, I finally have some positive things to say. Who are you and what have you done to my favorite self-righteous complainer? One of my biggest complaints with Season 2 has been Zenless' loss of identity. The cool, goofy, and at times surprisingly dark, futuristic tech world suddenly turned into a wuxia fantasy. Almost everything that I loved about Zenless flew out the window. My precious spook shack, not you, and the absolute goddess of a woman that is Izelda were the only saving grace.
How I'm gonna come?
Also the summer event, that was pretty fun now that I think about it. Kind of funny how the second we returned to 6th Street and version 2.6, everything that I loved about Zenless came back with a vengeance. Goodbye, wifey, you will not be missed.
Bye, have a great time.
I cannot stop thinking about this one very specific joke.
What is miasma? It's when you can't breathe very well.
The pure comedy of Cissia, the insane bloodbath of Black Wolf, Silly Billy, my beloved! Belle turned into a boss fight, bro. Are you shitting my ass? So here I am having a blast eating Burger King. Having the time of my life because Zenless is finally getting good again. Season 1 of Zenless did a great job of balancing comedy with tragedy throughout the story. One second the Cunning Hares were putting on a 3-man comedy act, the next Sarah was threatening to ram a train jam-packed with explosives into a mall filled with innocent civilians. Sprinkle in some cool epic fight scenes / sequences combined with great writing, and Season 1 was an amazing experience. Of course, it wasn't perfect, but on average, I really enjoyed Season 1's story. The multiple found family relationships, Hugo and Vivian, Hugo and Lycon, Evelyn and Astra, depending on how you look at it, the Cunning Hares, and the shockingly brutal backstory and the touching death of Twiggy. Also, in case you forgot, Twiggy literally created an organ harvesting factory in order to fund her plans. Wild. Miyabi, as a child, killed her mom. The story of the ballet twins, Colita's story with her dad, etc, etc, etc. Zenless gracefully danced from one emotion to the next. Not only did this help keep the game entertaining, it made the world feel alive. A vast wide variety of life experiences painting the world with gripping colors. Most of Season 2, by comparison, was a dumpster fire. Right off the bat, it wasn't all bad like I said earlier, there were some things that I enjoyed about Season 2's story and characters. Yixuan was great in version 2.0, but she became progressively worse with each update. Shen Guang had potential to be a phenomenal character, but was sadly horribly executed. I made 2 in-depth videos about those 2, link in the description, go check them out. You had some cool stuff here and there. Izelda, like I said, was an amazing character and her twist villain surprise was well executed. I love Minato, Yuzuha, and Alice. Really fun characters on their own, but seeing them interact with each other was a blast. The summer event was a massive highlight. Sadly, the few bright spots were drowned by the abysmal sewage that was the rest of Season 2. Don't get me started on these 2 abominations. The Exaltes were painfully uninteresting enemies that were seemingly incapable of doing anything. They ruined Sarah, link in the description, and the overall story was mind-numbingly boring with so much missed potential. So much of Season 2 felt like we were twiddling our thumbs until we randomly, unceremoniously killed off Sarah. One of the biggest problems was the fact that Wi-Fi did not feel like Zenless. The comedy aspect was massively underplayed. Sure, some jokes and visual gags would pop up every now and then, but they were far less prevalent. The sibling dynamic all but disappeared. I picked Belle at the beginning, so for me it became the Belle show. Weiss may as well be dead for how little he contributed to the story. Almost never appearing, and the handful of times he did, it was purely to vomit exposition. The beautifully executed sibling bond between Belle and Weiss was one of the best parts of Season 1. Its erasure in Season 2 was sad to say the least, leaving a massive gaping hole in the emotional core of the game. They tried to replace that with the forced Shunguang friendship / slight romance, but the whole concept was a catastrophic failure in execution. Zenless was seemingly terrified of getting dark, of showing the gruesome reality of the world. Remember when in Season 1, retired soldiers that Trigger knew were hunted down and killed by an ex-military personnel? Or when Sarah almost shot Nekomata in the goddamn head? Harumasa's tragic upbringing, Pompey being betrayed by his subordinate, leading to his untimely death? Pepper Ridge Farm remembers. The only thing that resembled the tragedy of Season 1 was Izelda's betrayal and killing a man in cold blood right in front of us, and it was fucking glorious! I wish Waife had more things like that. There was potential with Yishuan's sister sort of being resurrected and Shunguang's slow deterioration, but those plot points were not explored as deeply as they could have been. Waife also lost much of Zenless' visual identity. Zenless did a great job of taking various different media genres and concepts throughout the world and giving them a fun, modern coat of paint. Lycon the werewolf butler, Miyabi the samurai office worker, Billy the cowboy robot. Not only did these characters have a strong core idea, the quality of design was amazing. The world itself accommodated this diversity in character design, the gorgeous fusion of traditional real-world concepts and wacky Zenless nonsense. Sadly, Waife lost the identity and quality for a lot of it. Some characters like Alice, Yuza, and Banyue did a good job of sticking to that core design philosophy, but many didn't. Shunguang is bland and empty, yet Hari has no idea what she wants to be. Jufufu exists, and I wish she didn't. These characters had potential to truly stand out. Imagine what Lucia could have looked like with Season 1 design philosophy. This insane looking techno witch summoning etheric demons. Worst yet, Waife lost its technology. It felt like a random Chinese town rather than a location in Zenless. Thankfully, version 2.6 had us return to 6th Street, and just like that, like magic, some of the problems that I had were fixed. The designs are still iffy to say the least, with one glorious return to form. On the other hand, the difference in writing specifically was night and day. Instantly, it skyrocketed in quality. Weiss and Fairy were finally active participants in the story, helping Belle in whatever it is she was doing and hanging out with other characters. No longer being trapped in the room, Fairy specifically had her long overdue time to shine in the sun. Her nurturing big sister relationship with Aria was beautiful, seeing her try her best to guide Aria to let go of her chains called the past and embrace her newfound family and passion for music. And of course, Fairy's showdown with Yokai was amazing. Hopefully that specific rivalry will get expanded upon in Season 3 and beyond, depending on how long Yokai sticks around for. Version 2.6 was a return to form with its constant tone balancing. One moment the Angels would be putting on a Three Stooges performance for the ages, the next we would find and fight robots of mass murder that shared a suspiciously high resemblance to Aria. Then we'd have a heartwarming discussion between Aria and Fairy, Sunna would have an emotional crisis, Aria would forge a new ironclad resolve to stop Vesper, Sunna would reignite her love for writing, and everything culminated in the grand Angels of Delusion performance. I'm gonna tell you guys a little secret. I don't really like idols. Off the top of my head, the only idol I can think of that I in any way, shape, or form like is Hatsune Miku. But to be honest, that's mostly because of memes. I don't really care about the music. I have heard some of it, but it's just not really my thing. But even though I don't like idols, genuinely I enjoyed the version 2.6 story, which goes to show how good it was. Was it perfect? No, but like I said, it was a return to form more than anything. 2.7 is when Zenless truly proved they still have it within themselves to do great writing. Look, I hate her design, but even I can admit Cissia was a well-written character, and I'm gonna be honest, I think she's one of the best written characters in the entire game. A super fun, quirky, energetic, scared girl trying her best to survive in the batshit insane world of Zenless. An ex-criminal working for the cops against her will, mind you. She has a strong sense of self-preservation, but deep down, she wants nothing more than to have a safe place she can call home and to have people she can put her trust in. Throughout the 2.7 chapter, she was terrified of Promeia, wanting absolutely nothing to do with her. But when the chips were down, she overcame her fear and found the strength within herself to fight back and save Phaeton. The scene between her and Phaeton on top of the roof was great, short and sweet. It was able to develop her character, tell us more about her, and give a quick joke about her stealing Weiss's pudding. Not only was Cissia great, Billy had a small role, but absolutely crushed it. Promeia was a good minor obstacle, getting some time to shine by being an overbearing shadow upon Cissia, setting up her future role in 2.8, culminating in their genuinely amazing battle near the end, where Cissia was finally able to find the courage, the willpower, the strength to stand up to her and save Phaeton. It was genuinely a phenomenal payoff. Ramiel was an intriguing mystery, pretending to be an ally at first, only to make a last-second appearance to steal the McMuffin we've been trying to get the entire story. Phaeton slowly tapping into more and more of their hidden power, getting a small tease of what's to come in version 2.8, the pure insanity of that chapter, bro. Oh my god, don't worry, we're gonna talk about it in like a minute. When, for a brief moment, their eyes flickered with unknown energy while under Ramiel's time manipulation. And finally, Romeo was a pretty good, straightforward villain, a bloodthirsty fighter looking for any excuse to exterminate those he deems weak. Watching him rip apart fellow contestants of the tournament was wild. Not only did Zenless bring back the darkness of the story, it did so with a goddamn vengeance. The thing that I specifically appreciate about Romeo so much is that the developers did not hold back. This dude is a complete monster, and they proved that with his introduction, jumping off of the rooftop or the balcony or wherever he was and just murdering a woman in cold blood, and then showing that he was the one that murdered everybody else in that room. It's just wild. It's crazy. And then later on, we learned that he didn't even need to kill anyone. That was not part of the mission. He just decided to do it because he felt like it. Like, bro is crazy. This moment, more than anything, showed that the developers are willing to go back to that darkness, that grittiness that Season 1 had. No longer are they dancing around the topics or just slightly delving into the kiddie pool like they did with the Wi-Fi story. No, they are doing a goddamn swan dive, and it is glorious. Raw Mule, alongside some stuff that happens in 2.8, which I will talk about, makes me really hopeful that version 3, or season 3 story I should say, is not going to be afraid to truly tackle whatever subjects they bring up. Of course, just because they didn't hold back in version 2.7 and 2.8 doesn't necessarily mean they'll do the same thing with season 3. It's more so just me being hopeful that they do that with season 3. All of this culminates in one of the best chapters in Zenless's near 2-year history. 2.8 was firing off at full throttle. The Ramiel investigation was a great way to not only minorly develop her, it had some fun jokes and gags.
It's you! 1, 2, 3... have you gotten tired of bringing just one person at a time?
The girl at the theater exposing Belle and all of her movie dates was genuinely hilarious. I audibly laughed when the others questioned her about it. It's always nice to see these beautifully designed NPCs. I will admit, the section is boring from a gameplay standpoint. All you're doing is walking from one NPC to the next. But thankfully, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and the comedy helps keep things interesting. Just as you're reaching your limit, boom!
All eyes on me!
Billy, what are you?
No need to go another way. I've been getting ready for this. It's showtime. Oh, evil darker than a black hole! Rejoice! You've earned the honor of being scorched by starlight! Dimension burst! Star crash! Starlight night! Transform!
How does this guy pass the forbidden fruit test?
Running into me today? Must be your lucky day! Behold! My brand new form! Upgraded with funds from Boston Gold Wallet. Come at me! All of you.
Silly Billy edging us with his Starlight Night transformation was painful after having to wait damn near 2 years, but well worth the wait. A dope Kamen Rider transformation with some humor thrown in for nice measure. The fact that he stole money from Nicole is amazing. I just know she was furious. After so much dialogue vaguely alluding to the point that Billy is really powerful and he's different now than he was however many years ago, he finally got some much needed development. Specifically, his talk with Lighter was great. Cissia talking about how she wants to find the legendary Outer Rim Reaper and Hero, insanely powerful warriors that one day mysteriously disappeared. Then we got the super shocking and not at all obvious reveal that it was Billy all this time. Lighter asking him why he doesn't just ask Big Daddy to give him his old specs to truly reach his old power, and his response that he no longer wants to be that mindless, brutal robot just following orders. Genuinely a great character moment. It also sets up the possibility of a second Billy variant in the future. Maybe something happens to Nicole in the future, and in order to save, or worse, avenge her, he decides to become that mindless machine once more. The fabled Void Hunter level Billy. Promeia was an interesting character. Unlike most chapters, 2.8 didn't go super deep into her backstory, and we didn't get massive developments with her. Instead, we got focused but impactful character moments. The quick flashback sequence where she wanted to pet Cissia, her struggling to find the words she wants to tell Cissia at Wildwoods, Cissia in turn telling her she's no longer afraid, her desperately trying to save Belle even though she's at death's door, and maybe most impactful of all, a couple of times throughout the chapter, she stares at her hands drenched in blood, perfectly conveying that she's a very conflicted person. We don't know exactly what's going on with her, but just the simple action of staring at her hands shows that there's more to her. That specific plot point culminates at the end of the chapter when we see her taking a shower. I like Promeia, and I'm glad she is seemingly going to Rascalifer. Her pragmatic focus and her complete the mission at all costs outlook will certainly create some interesting story and character moments. But honestly, I'm just glad they didn't ruin her character in the same way they ruined Zhao in 2.5. Zhao magically became a completely different character in that chapter, and I hate it. Instead of being this jaded woman with an understandable and justifiable pessimistic, pragmatic outlook on life, she suddenly was just a confused, scared little girl that needed to learn the world was actually filled with sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. She needed to learn the power of friendship. I hated that so goddamn much, bro. It was so stupid. She used to be an interesting character, now I honestly don't care about her. Luckily, Promeia was not lobotomized. Well, not yet, anyways. Never say never, I suppose. Who knows what Rascalifer is gonna do to her. Personally, I am of the belief that story quests do not need to give us the backstory and massively explore the new limited time premium characters. I prefer when characters are there to support the main overarching narrative of the game, rather than have the main story be a constant unfocused showcase of the new fancy premium character. Hello Shunguang, what are you doing here? Of course, that is not a set in stone rule. If a character is deeply tied to the narrative, then learning about them is fine. Likewise, if the story can create a natural interaction where learning about and exploring a character makes sense. Originally, I had a longer section exploring this idea of mine, but it ballooned out of control, so I've decided to make that its own separate video. So let's move on. Long story short, Promeia not getting a massive deep dive in the main story is not bad in my opinion. The problem is the fact that she didn't get a story quest. For some reason, Zenless just hasn't been doing story quests recently. Instead, they seem to have fused story quests with events. A good example of this is Nangong. In version 2.7, she released as a playable character, but instead of getting a dedicated story quest, her story was fused with the temporary event. If Promeia truly is joining us in Ross Colifer, it's possible that the developers plan on slowly developing her character throughout multiple chapters rather than just doing one massive deep dive in version 2.8, similar to characters like Billy or Anby or Nicole. Basically, they might try to do with her what they did with Billy, a character that has gotten slow development throughout multiple versions. And I am completely okay with that. Ramiel has the potential to be an amazing character, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried. She is clearly the Alicia XP of Zenless, and listen, I like Alicia as much as the next guy. I was there on ground zero when the Elysian Realm updates were released. Ellie wasn't my favorite, that honor goes to Mobius, but she was a truly great, deep, complex character. The reason Alicia resonated so much with players is because she was more than meets the eye. On the surface, she's just this fun, energetic, quirky girl that likes to tease people. But once you look past all of that, you understand that she is a very complex person. She so desperately wants to be a normal girl, but she isn't, and she can't be, because at the end of the day, she's not even technically a human. So much of the things that she does specifically because she wants to live the life. She wants to experience the life of a normal girl. That's the reason why she has this wedding motif when she becomes the Hersher of Origin and she decides to marry humanity. That is her way of showing that at the end of the day, even if she can't be a person, if she can't be a true human, she will live her life as if she was one because she loves humanity. That's why one of the final things she does before sacrificing herself is dancing with Kevin. Because what is more normal than a girl dancing with the guy she has a crush on? And to be clear, she technically doesn't even actually like Kevin. She doesn't actually love anybody. She doesn't love Aiden, she doesn't love Aponia, she doesn't love May. She just does these things because it's what a normal girl would do. She's a very deep, complex, tragic character. However, we live in a post-Cyrene world, and she made it clear to me that mihoyo does not want to continue the legacy of Alicia. All they want to do is reheat her nachos and throw it at us. With Cyrene, all they did was take the visual aesthetic of Ellie and the vague concept of her story and remove all originality Smallreen had. That repeat has me worried more than anything else. Honestly, I'm starting to believe that mihoyo doesn't even understand what made Alicia a well-written character in the first place. Ramiel's true form is already taking many visual cues from Alicia. The angelic motifs, the association with time, the pink hair and elf ears, obviously, being an extremely powerful character. If she says anything about romance and stories, there's no hope of her being an original character. That being said, the chapter did make me interested in her. Her discussion with Belle at Wildwood and those weird yellow ghosts which seemed to be her from the past did a great job of making me want to learn more about her. Specifically, why the fuck did she try to murder Sunbringer? Also, how is she still alive? The last documented sightings of her took place 100 years ago, and yet here she is, seemingly completely fine. Based on the little bit of her power that we've seen, she clearly has some sort of time-based power. I do have a couple of theories as to what exactly happened to Ramiel, and one of them is that 100 years ago, there was some sort of accident and Ramiel trapped herself in time. She hasn't lived these past 100 years, she's been trapped in time these past 100 years. Because at the beginning of the version 2.8 story, you can notice that Ramiel doesn't understand a lot of very simple concepts like what milk tea is. If she's truly been alive these past 100 years, she should not need to be learning all of these very basic daily life things. And it's possible that Sunbringer might have been involved in the events that caused her to be trapped in time. That's why she tried to assassinate her in the first place. Maybe she's trying to get revenge. When we saw the weird yellow ghost version of Ramiel that presumably is some sort of remnant of the past, who was she talking to? That's something that I'm really curious about. Presumably it's someone who shares some kind of connection to Phaeton, but how? Maybe some sort of ancestor? And in the present, who was she talking to operating that little drone? Like I said, she has the potential to be an amazing character. Hopefully the writers will let her dance among the stars. Belle turned into a boss fight, bro. Holy shit! It was so goddamn cool. Since the conclusion of version 1.4, it's been hinted that Phaeton are far more powerful than we realize. They survived a point-blank explosion. They cured Vivian before she was fully corrupted. They have special eye powers they've been slowly refining throughout the Wi-Fi arc. In the Season 2 epilogue, they've been slowly losing control, which is why they so desperately need the special alloy engine. Belle has been consistently getting these headaches and she's been seeing visions of Carol Orna. Clearly, she is losing her goddamn mind. All of this culminates in them being drawn to the chest, holding Ramiel's void weapon and fusing with it. The transformation sequence was surprisingly brutal, watching the weapon forcefully enter her body, then all of the pieces of the Pteroraptor encasing her, listening to her scream in agony. The fight itself is also pretty cool, watching the machine summon massive tornadoes and pillars of light. And just as you think it's over and the day is saved, Belle crawls out of the husk, fully transformed, looking absolutely insane, entering an unbeatable boss fight where Belle, for some odd reason, copies the attack of previous enemies. This is interesting because is there a lore reason for this? Or is it simply the developers reusing assets? Perhaps Phaeton has the ability to copy the powers of other beings. Their power does revolve around their eyes. Maybe all this time they've been unknowingly recording and saving the attacks of every encounter. We know they're going to be playable in version 3. I wonder if they're going to incorporate the attacks of other enemies and potentially allies in some way inside of the gameplay of what was it called off the top of my head? Prios or something like that? I don't remember. It's a word that starts with P. The fact that Belle almost killed Cissia, Billy, and Promeia is wild. Once again, a great example of how Zenless seems to no longer be holding back with its tone. However, I am curious how much of this was Phaeton's power and how much of it was Ramiel's. Remember, Belle fused with her weapon, so it's unclear where Belle ends and Ramiel begins. Safe to say, I am really curious to see where all of this stuff with Phaeton's true power goes. I'll be honest, Wi-Fi destroyed my interest in Zenless. I was on the cusp of uninstalling after 2.5. Thankfully, the epilogue has helped reignite my love for this game. Honestly, making this video and talking about the epilogue made me realize just how much more fun I've been having with the game in the last couple of updates. Don't get me wrong, things aren't all sunshine and rainbows. The Season 3 teaser left a sour taste in my mouth with some of the character designs, and just because I've been enjoying the story of the epilogue doesn't mean that Season 3's story is going to continue the quality and the aspects that I've been enjoying throughout the epilogue. However, I am truly hopeful that Season 3's story will not make the same mistakes that Season 2 made. All that being said, what are your thoughts about the Season 2 epilogue? Are you excited for Season 3? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.